Hello. I've always got to coordinate myself. Hello. Oh, I haven't really scheduled that very well. Hello. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Candid with Cal, our weekly live meetup for Genius Network, every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you are new, welcome to the crew. Thank you so much for being here. And today we're going to talk with all of our crew from all around the world who are like yourself and myself, who are touched by trauma. I'm a stroke survivor from 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And we've got heaps of people coming in right now. Tom, hello. Paula, rock on, guys. Sue, yo, you made it. It's great to see you. Today I am here. I'm sort of squatting, so it's a little awkward, but I'll just keep squatting for you. I'm really good on the, what are those things called? Glutes. There's no one featured today, I swear to God. Backstage interruption. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about what we chatted about last week and the week I've had since. Last week we were chatting all about perspective that changes pre and post trauma. And today I wanted to catch you up on where I'm at since last week's chat. Because if you were with us, you're probably going to remember that I got a little bit of mosh and it kind of freaked me out. But you were amazing and you just sort of like came straight to the fold and so many people reached out to me and our community really huddled around, I guess, a moment where I felt really vulnerable. But it reminded me of the support that we give each other and how crucial support is in our everyday life. And I know that you know that. If you feel that way too and you get it, please let me know down below. Actually, as you're coming on through, let me know. I can see you, Priya. Give us a holler in the comments so that I know that you're here. Because I do have some special guests that I'm going to introduce you to, which you have met. You might have already gotten it from the little picture that's been floating around Facebook on who's saying hello. Oh, we're getting lots of love. Hello. Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh my gosh. It's like we have a heart bomb going on. Thank you. Namaste. So without further ado, I kind of want to go into the topic of perspective, which we were talking about last week, and then onto the topic that birthed for me, which is support. Last week, when we were talking about perspective, we just had our weekly email sent out, and in that email, Ruben, our brother, was featured in his topic talk about perspective. And if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to get onto it, because that topic talk particularly is so incredibly insightful from Ruben, and it's really vulnerable as well. And it's something I didn't get to kind of share, but Ruben and I guess specifically, we've become friends essentially through Genius, and we've had very different experiences physically of trauma, but we are united by, I guess, that thing that probably you're united by. If you are united by this as well, let me know below. It's about perspective changing, and I couldn't feel like more of a different person than what I did before my stroke. But before I did have my stroke, I was working at the gym and working on my glutes, which I'm still working on. But to segue into the next section of today, I want to introduce you to two people that you have already met who have, kind of like what you did for me last week, you reached out and gave me so much support in a time of vulnerability and openness. And I have certainly been the recipient of heaps of support throughout my last almost 10 years since I had my stroke. And so I wanted to, as my first official guests on Candid with Cal, we're going to have a bit of couch time with Cal. I don't know if I just branded that very well, but we'll see how it works. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments. But I'll introduce you quickly to my parents.
Lucky us.
With music. It's Mom. It's Dad. Oh my god. My siblings will think this is the funniest thing in the world. They'll probably freak out as well, because I'll get you guys on it soon. Alright. So, guys. Alright, everybody, guys. This is my parents. This is Ian. And this is Gail. So, Mum, Dad, heads up. Look here. That's where everyone is. Put all your energy in there. They're blind. I'm following suit. So, anyway, okay. So, let me know down below if you can't hear us, but we're going to give it a crack. Oh my god, we've got 11 people already watching us. Cool. So, guys, hello.
Hey. It's like family dinner.
It's like family dinner, which is usually like Family Feud. But anyway, that won't make sense for anyone that's like coming in from Canada. If anyone's from Canada, give us a holler. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about what your experience has been in the last 10. I can already feel Mum being like glassy eyes. Just as a bit of context, I'm the youngest of... Oh, I just realised, hang on. It's like stroke survivor, filmmaker, and grip on a film set. Anyway, you've got us. So I wanted to talk quickly about your experience of what we've been through. We don't have to go fully in depth because this is very candid and they're kind of just like, I've just basically just hauled them into this, so hence Dad's top and Mum's put on her face, which is nice, so it's not too unexpected, but it's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And for any of you out there that have a key supporter or a group of supporters that have, you know, helped you along the way, please bring them into this conversation because
Absolutely.
I think it's an important one that we all need to have. You know, so since I started Genius, I've been working very closely with you guys. I guess being nurtured, would you say? Being kind of nurtured on this quest that we're all on together, and it's been for me a very uniting and cathartic experience to have our experience shared with so many people, and for you guys to share your experiences, which helps us, I guess, realize our own. But first of all, I wanted to actually ask you, I mean, in, say, a sentence each, what was the beginning of the experience of the trauma like for you, Dad? What was that like?
I remember getting the phone call, put in context, we're in Geelong, 500 mile from Sydney, and just saying that we had to get to Sydney that night because you were not expected to live, and me going into dad mode, trying to steer the ship and being completely lost in a world that I didn't understand or I had no control over. And that was the start of a very long journey, and you know, and we've ended up here right now. So, so it's a pretty good journey, and
Good outcome.
a good outcome. And as a human being, I'm a much better person for the experience. So, you know,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thanks. What about you? How was...
More than traumatic.
It's a big topic in our family. So
I brought my tissue because
Yeah.
I
I was like, bring the Kleenex, Gail. If anyone that knows, anyone that has a mum that might be in this situation or a loved one that kind of cries at the drop of a hat, let us know down below. Actually, just sorry before you jump in, I was talking with you yesterday, Cami, one of our friends on Genius, who was talking about her emotional change pre and post stroke, and how before there was kind of an armour that no longer is there, and there's kind of just a blur of emotion that sort of happens at the drop of a hat. And I know that you haven't necessarily had a stroke, Mum,
No,
but
I
it's
Absolutely.
a big thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of, obviously we can go into that a bit more, probably when we've had a bit more time. We've only had 10 years to prepare for this, guys. If you can't tell, we're very ready. But really this is about opening up the dialogue of support and the importance of supporters in our community and in our platform. So what would you say each of you has been, I don't know, I think, like, because I'm not a parent, and believe it or not, guys, I'm not a parent, but I can't personally imagine what it's like to worry about potentially losing my child, and I think that experience is something that very I feel like very special, go with me here, people get through that experience, and I think it really unites parents. I think it's a really unique experience that I care very much about and I empathise with, but I can't live it. I can only live in my shoes. But I wanted to ask you both, what was it like? What was the hardest moment or the most challenging moment for you as a supporter, as my parent, to watch?
I think at different stages you go through so many different fears and traumas yourself.
Yep.
I remember. Just sorry about this.
We're candid, guys.
We'll,
Speaking of trauma, we're live on the interwebs.
Yeah, I think that works. I turn it off.
Yeah.
Oh, whoever that is, he'll call you back.
Yeah. But the other day,
He's busy. He's talking with the world.
was my bookie.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah. I can remember. There's poignant points. 10 years is a long time, and you went through so much. And as a parent, you're there at each stage, and as you're coming along, we're celebrating the accomplishment, not having to go through what you went through, and you're sort of holding your breath all the time, and then we got to this stage, and I remember very clearly the first 10 days when you're on life support. The Gala and I would almost celebrate each night that we got through another day.
Yeah.
And indicating that you got through another day.
Yeah.
And we were given no real hope by the health professionals. We were just given facts. And at that stage, to try and explain to me what an arteriovenous malformation was or is, or what effect it would have, and that my son was just laying in this bed, comatose, and not being able to do anything, and no one giving me some real answers. It's a horrible time. And the only I remember solace that I had was another gentleman whose daughter was in a bed near you, and who was going through a similar trauma, and he and I bonded just in the fact that we both were scared and both didn't know what the outcome would be, and both as fathers couldn't fix it, which is a horrible thing, as any father would know. If your kids are in trouble, you go fix the problem, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
So, I suppose from a perspective, that's the first impact that I remember as a parent and how it affected me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was lots more too.
Well,
lucky us.
Yeah. Speaking of lots more, what was, in terms of the more of my recovery and if we move on a bit, say, so obviously, to give a bit of context, I did outpatient rehab for two and a half years, something in that vicinity, and I had, we actually spent a long time. I wasn't awake for a lot of this time. These guys had the hard job of being awake for, say, the first month. But afterwards, that more clinical time was really, I don't know, that was more dire straits, like more...
Well, it was more operations.
Yeah, so it was very...
complications.
Yeah. But what was... Speaking of that lots more, and you said about hope, what was... In my recovery, when did you start to feel hope?
Oh, I never didn't have hope.
No.
Ever.
That's nice. She's gone. We're all gone.
I am. I'm shocking.
But in truth, we both, in talking to each other, both gave each other that hope.
Yeah.
We were convincing each other all the time that it's going to come. You were going to get better. And
It was never not
you know,
going to happen.
it wasn't false hope. We did believe it, and so we were lucky that we had each other to support each other through that.
Yeah.
Because that's a very isolating time, a really isolating time.
Well, I feel like because I'm privy to you guys and I've had experience, I had 24 years of experience before I had my stroke to know you as people. Obviously, you operate very differently. You're very different thinkers. You process information differently. What was like? How did you constructively find a point where you, I don't know, where you met to go? Because you talk about like there's almost like not opposing things, but you had to band together. And obviously, I was a physical thing you had to band. But how did you work out your different approaches and make them align?
We certainly. It sounds like there's a mutual meeting of minds, but in reality, it's minor conflicts all the way.
Yeah.
Perspectives that I had versus what Gail had, and then airing them and coming to an agreement that maybe that was one thing to do and a way to look at it as against another way. But there was never a right or a wrong. It was more where you were coming from, and of course, it's your own emotional state at the time.
Yeah.
Because you're like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that like that for you as well?
Yeah,
That-
very
that
much.
yo-yo?
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was there full time with you, it seemed that like your father often come on a weekend, and as soon as you get on that bloody plane to come back, the very next day you'd have meningitis, or
Yeah.
you'd have
That was
goblet
early.
staph, or
Pneumonia.
something else. Yeah,
We had a lot to deal with.
Something would go horrendously wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd often ring up crying, wouldn't I? But the one day I rang up crying, and you probably
That was
tell
the
us
first.
that was
I left
a
on the-
wonderful day,
yeah.
really.
I don't know whether this is a good
Because
story.
you were
I
out
know.
of bed. They
I'll-
had you up out of the bed.
Right.
Yeah.
What happened was, it was the Sunday before Christmas, and I had to fly back to Geelong for business. And the very last thing that one of the doctors said to me said, "This is the last antibiotic that we can give your son. From here on, he has to fight everything because there's no antibiotics left."
Oh, like I tapped out.
And, and we'd
Thank you very
spent the day cold sponging you to get your temperature down because you were full of infection and whatnot. And so I got on the plane, flew back to Geelong on the Sunday night, and went to work the next day, which is Christmas week, which is a busy week. I'm a hairdresser, and I was cutting hair, doing one of my first clients in the morning, and one of the girls said, "Your wife's on the phone." Gail's on the phone. Gave me the phone, and Gail's crying on the other end of the phone. I thought, and all I could think of was that Caleb was dead, and then she said, "No, he's alive." And that was when she told me that I think it was then, wasn't it?
Was that when I was up?
You were sitting in
You're
your chair
sitting in
when
a
I-
day bed?
Yeah, in a day
she said he's
bed.
in a day bed.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when you sent me was that when you sent me the video?
No, that was a bit later.
That was a bit
Yeah,
later when,
yeah.
Yeah.
in isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, we've had a lot of time post that. Throughout the time, what would you say would be, Mum, if there was something that you've needed as a supporter, whether it's been something you've struggled with or something that you've actually needed and then you've got that, what's something that you could say that you've that would have helped you as a supporter to
just
support me?
a parent, I gather, that had been through a similar problem because I felt very isolated and we had never heard of anybody having a stroke at this age. So
Yeah.
that was the amazing thing to me, that number one, that this had even happened, but that there was nowhere to go to find out or to get help. So one of my things that helped me, I think, was I diarised everything.
Yeah.
Every night I'd come home and
Right,
say
in
what
your
has
diary,
happened
yeah.
that day, and we still look through that now, don't we?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
It's been a real mainstay in helping your
Yeah.
recovery a little bit too, to see what had happened to
Completely.
you and where you'd come from and
Yeah.
and all of
Can
this.
I'll give you
Yeah.
a bit of context. I'll just give a little bit of context of that. So whilst I was out, firstly unconscious, and then because I was induced, so my level of consciousness was either not or it was very reduced and altered for a good month. But Mum kept a diary of basically what my movements were, how my body was responding to things, how emotionally I was when there was no movement in the side of my body. I'm left side affected as a stroke survivor, so key moments which I now can go back to and go, wow, okay, so on day 14 was when I first winked at a nurse or something, because I'm a loser. I obviously, well, not a loser, but I obviously do that sort of stuff.
That's how. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
But that's one of the reasons why we found out. Well, not one of the reasons, but that helped in when you couldn't speak.
Yeah.
We used to get you to try and write.
Yeah.
And that's when we realised that there was something wrong with your eyes, because you kept writing over yourself. Not that you made any sense with the writing anyway,
Yeah.
but you'd write over it all, you know.
Because the
So-
truth is that, like, I don't have good handwriting anyway, and then they have to deal with a guy that's had a stroke, can't see, isn't processing too quickly at the time, trying to write down my bank details.
Oh, that's right.
Do you know what I've just realised?
What?
There's that sign at the foot of your bed.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to read it.
No, exactly. Everyone's like, oh gosh,
It's in
that's
the-
context for another day.
No,
It's in the video at the
video,
top of the
yeah.
thing. Actually, if you want any context about anything that we've talked about, it might be actually found on our website. www.geniusnetwork.com is where we've got our About section, which is our Genesis story as a community, and it's got a bit more about my story and our experience. But I guess, is there any, sort of to wrap up this section, is there anything that you'd like to say to all the other people out there who are supporting someone who's going through, maybe directly affected by a trauma? But if you were to have one message to send to the survivors to say to their supporters, what would it be?
Look, it's probably a cliche to a lot, but hope is one of the biggest things that you've got to hold on to. That's absolutely right. Oh, God. But it's right up there. And if you lose hope, you lose, I don't know, it's just your whole metabolism changes. But while you've got hope, and continue to have hope, I really believe psychologically something happens to both the survivor and the supporter. I really believe that with my whole heart. That's.
There's many studies been done to show that health professionals, if the health professional believes the patient's going to get better, the patient has a greater chance of getting better. And I think that goes with us as supporters.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Is that our belief that, I can remember when you were doing rehab, on all fours, scrolling around the table.
That's when I burnt my knees.
Yeah. I remember very clearly the exhilaration and I had about you being able to be better than what you were.
Yeah.
And that there was living proof. I was watching the proof of your progress, which meant that there would be more progress. And so even, now, 10 years down the track, and you have achieved something improved, I still go, well, of course, because he's always going to progress. It's in my DNA now that you will get betterer. Than what you are.
That's the word. That's it. I think
betterer and betterer.
Better and better. And I think if you out there have, if you have that belief, please let us know, because it's something that I think is infectious, and I think that rather than the other infections that we all have experienced, probably the most infectious and the most important thing that we've had is hope the whole time. And I think by giving hope to one another, in our community is certainly what I find to be probably our strongest attribute. Yeah.
Something I really want to put forward too to everybody, hopefully there's millions listening,
Yeah.
is that with our 10-year adventure with
Yeah.
you, when we came back to Geelong and we got you back here to rehab, every day I would go to work and I had the chance to express what happened and talk as a supporter to people that had been through similar things, through my clients and everything. And I know that gave me quite a cathartic experience in being able to release and let go and whatnot. And I know that Gail was stuck at home by herself and didn't have that outlet, and that certainly had an emotional toll on her, as against me feeling I suppose the words, I had this assurance, because I kept on getting, as progress and things were happening, I was getting reaffirmed, and I heard other stories of other people and other traumas, and that they survived and they did this and they did that. So I was always exposed to that. Yeah. And that's sort of a segue leading to that. I would hope that Genius grows and that we can have a supporters section,
for everybody out there.
Everybody that goes through what Gail and I went through, and our children and our friends and whatnot, that they would have a place to go where they would be able to share their stories, get some advice, hear from other people that are going through or gone through or going through similar experiences, because it's that sharing that gives you strength, hope, and as we've just indicated, it's the enthusiasm and the hope that really is the two most crucial things.
I think that's beautiful, and I think to sort of go into I guess our next week is absolutely with that hope and that beautifully articulated. Thank you guys, considering it's Candid. That what you've explained about that cathartic need to express and connect, and again, it's still the same thing. It's about knowing that you're not alone and realizing that in strength in numbers is how we can essentially eliminate isolation and really create more possibilities than often in the past have been thought possible. So if you out there are like me and you've got a father and a mother or a sister or a brother or a lover or children, people that are supporting you in your recovery, please bring them in and let them know. Bring them into this conversation. Actually, tag them below, because if you are a supporter, you need to see this and know that you got peeps as well. I've been fortunate to have these peeps and many other peeps around me supporting me through my recovery, and I know that support is the most fundamental part of recovery. And the more that we talk, the more that we share, the more that we are willing to be seen in our lounge room with the heater going, the stronger we are. So thank you, Dad, Mum, Ian, Gail, Genius Crew, thank you. I've got to press off in a second, but thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week for some more Candid action. Bye!